Today we're going to discuss the undisputed king of rotary barrel tomfoolery, the M134 Minigun. The M134 Minigun looks like a modern design, but it actually can trace its roots back to the 1860s. This is an era where black powder was the normal and repeating rifles were considered cutting edge. It was around this time that a little-known inventor named Richard Gatling would introduce the world to a hand-cranked firearms design. This was undoubtedly a crazy time to be alive. All kinds of innovations were being rolled out to the masses to include a little thing known as the electric motor. Now, in true American fashion, the first thing that went through Richard's mind wasn't to use it to assist farmers, laborists, and maybe even machinists. No, he had his priorities straight and thought to himself, I bet I could put this on a gun. Staying true to his word, that's exactly what he did, and the result was he created the world's greatest lead sprinkler. Even when slowed down, his new electric Gatling gun could fire at a theoretical rate of 3,000 rounds per minute. 3,000 rounds per minute, in the late 1800s. The world clearly was not ready for this level of express bullet delivery, and so the electric Gatling gun was left to rot in the pages of history. Is what I would say if it wasn't for the 1960s and a little thing coming across the horizon called the Vietnam War. War without a doubt breeds weapons innovations, and the Vietnam War brought forth some of the most effective designs of destruction in American history. And one of those designs that stood the test of time was the rejuvenated Gatling gun, aka the General Electric M134. Essentially a scaled down version of the 20mm M61 Vulcan cannon, the M134 was designed to shoot the 7.62 NATO round instead. And yes, you heard that right. This minigun, capable of firing up to 6,000 rounds per minute, was designed by General Electric. Because naturally, after you've cornered the market on refrigerators and washing machines, the next logical step is to own the minigun market. American companies and their priorities. Damn, I love this country. The US government bought about 10,000 of these things, and while it was effective, it did have its fair share of problems to include feeding issues and a relatively short service life. Now, instead of letting a good design fade into history, a company called Dillon Aero gave the minigun new life. Improvements included the use of a delinker to aid in feeding reliability, along with housing changes which brought the service life from 500,000 rounds to 1.5 million rounds. Today, the M134 has a ton of designators depending on who paid for it, but none of that really matters. Nobody cares. The reason we're all here is to argue over who has the best example of minigun implementation. Kicking things off in the number 5 slot is the US Army. It was in the jungles of Vietnam where the minigun was designed around. Its entire purpose in life was to hose down enemy forces so that they couldn't get shots off on our helicopters. When you've got to get that bird right up to where the crap is really going down, it helps to have a little full auto persuasion to medevac that injured soldier out. Number 4, the Navy. Now when it comes to putting guns on things, you gotta give it up to the Navy. They've been putting big guns on things prior to the widespread adoption of the indoor toilet and electricity. They're also big fans of multiplication. Like, why use one when two is better? But in all the Navy, no one is a more magnificent maestro of malicious intent than the Special Warfare Combat Crewman, or just SWIC. Those 4 letters send chills down the backs of any insurgent foolish enough to way too far into the deep end. SWIC operators already have a chip on their shoulder with everyone treating them like they're diet Navy SEALs. So of course when SWIC comes out to play, they never come without bringing the rain. Number 3, the Little Bird. The MH-6 Little Bird, aka the Killer Egg, are the light helicopters used in Army Special Operations. This hummingbird of death can be configured with some pretty crazy weapon systems to include Stinger missiles and Hellfires. Now since this video is about the minigun, I think you can guess which variant is my personal favorite. Yeah, try to tell me with a straight face that don't put hair on your chest. A little bit there. Flown by the elite 160th Special Operations Aviation Regiment, or SOAR, the Night Stalkers use the AH-6 like a tiny pissed-off gunship. This thing is like a gnat on crack. It's the equivalent of giving a mosquito steroids and a gun. Aerial deletion at its finest. What I'm trying to say is that when you have a retired Night Stalker pilot release a book titled Death Waits in the Dark, 6 Guns Don't Miss, you might want to rethink your life choices when you hear that minigun note bird overhead. Number 2. The Door Gunner. I've said this before and I'll say it again. Everyone wants to be a door gunner. I don't care if you're the most anti-gun, anti-military, green tea drinking, Stanley Cup toting person on the planet. When you see a metal box in the sky go, the straight savage part of your brain takes over. Now, even though machine guns like the M240 and the M250 cal generally get a lot of aerial gunnery love, the truth is everyone wants to feel the vibration of 6,000 rounds per minute between their hands. So you might be thinking to yourself, why does the door gunner get a higher spot on this list over the A86 Killer Egg? Well, it's because you have to factor in the person behind the trigger. Allow me to explain. You see, with the A86, what you're getting is controlled chaos in the hands of a highly trained, highly restrained professional. These elite top-tier operators have honed their craft and understand that proper use of force is what's needed when operating in a culturally sensitive area. Now, with door gunners, not so much. Most door gunners are mechanics or crewmen that have worked their way up the ranks. What I'm getting at is these aerial ammo dispensers went from stacking boxes to stacking bodies, and they have all the incentive in the world to defend their beloved airframes. So if you wake up one day feeling yourself and think you can point an AK at a crew chief's bird, then the next time you wake up, it might be a little warmer outside than you remember. Alright, let's go through a few honorable mentions. Now, it was tough trying to narrow this list down to 5, so here are the ones that didn't quite make the cut. I could have included that time Neo went full main character energy and made door gunners of the world proud. I was also torn between that time the T-800 precisely incapacitated civilian law enforcement without a single casualty. But ultimately, the winner for honorable mention had to go to the heroic efforts from the late Sergeant Mac Elliott. Now, if you don't know this story, then back in 1987, in the remote jungles of Central America, Sergeant Elliott was a part of an elite military unit led by Major Alan Dutch Schaefer. It was here that he and his team encountered a highly advanced enemy that quickly turned this standard operation into a desperate bid for survival. Sergeant Elliott's best friend, Sergeant Blaine Cooper, was shot and killed, causing him to drop his trusty M134, which he affectionately named Old Painless. Now, after Sergeant Blaine Cooper was killed, Sergeant Mac Elliott picked up his departed friend's minigun and, in a fit of rage and desperation, used it to unleash a massive barrage of gunfire into the jungle in an attempt to hit the extraterrestrial assailant. Now, although gone, we will never forget the life lessons that Sergeant Blaine Cooper left us with.
I ain't got time to breathe.
Now, apologies for the somber tone for the honorable mention spot, but I know the cure for your sadness because, ladies and gentlemen, the #1 example of M134 insanity is simply named the Quad.
Sensational.
Yes, the Quad. It's exactly what it looks and sounds like. It's 4 M134s strapped together for reasons. I looked all over and couldn't find a reason for this thing existing. But then again, this is America, and do you really need a reason to do anything? I'd argue not, and so would the Quad. But the mere existence of this thing doesn't put it at the top of the list. No, what really stood out and the reason it's the top of this list is the cost to feed this beast. Now, I did my own math, and this thing over 1 second slings out 1,200 rounds at a cost of $960. Which means in the original clip, the full 17-second burst was 6,800 rounds to the tune of $5,500. Well, considering the cost of a single Javelin missile is around $80,000 a shot, I'd say the Quad is money well spent. Now, when I come to power, my first order of business is to ramp up production of the Quad, mount it to a Crow, and put it on every JLTV that rolls off the assembly line. And on that conclusion of my rapid fire filled rant, I want to say thanks for watching. Check out my other machine gun videos and consider liking and subscribing. Or don't. It's a free country. Do whatever you want. CT6